He touched upon so many aspects of finance, including the technology. But yeah, let us start kind of this session with a question wherein how many of you have kind of involved in the digital transformation, especially from the finance perspective? And okay, good number, I would say. Yeah, being technology hub, Bangalore, you'll find a lot of technology companies who are eager to embrace the technologies. Yeah, let me start this with a kind of story, my story. So I assume most of us are kind of chartered accountants with some 15, 20 years of experience. So I cleared my CA exams way back in 2004. That time, we used to have information technology, MICS subjects, if anyone recollect. Okay, how many of you were kind of excellent in that subject and found it very interesting and scoring? Okay, we are all on the same boat then. Okay, I never used to like that subject, and I just prepared for the exam just to slide through. And luckily, I got some decent marks, and that helped me. But then I thought, okay, no more technology again now. But then for career, I had to move to Bangalore, and then here, most of the companies are like technology companies. I joined the audit firms, then later consulting firms, but predominantly working with the technology companies. So then finally decided to kind of embrace the technologies. But it was still okay that time if you kind of know Word, Excel, PowerPoint, a little bit high-level knowledge of SAP and some other ERP systems which customers are using. Predominantly, it's still okay, but especially when I got into Yahoo, where I saw so many systems which have been used, and there were continuous, I would say, the transformation, wherein we had to kind of implement new systems, we had to kind of do away with old systems, and then make sure they are kind of well implemented, well integrated, the reports are coming out properly, reports are well reconciled, which will kind of help us from the decision-making purpose. That's when actually I realized the importance of technology in making our life easy. And so we have an excellent panel members here who from different backgrounds, many from technologies to startups to manufacturing to multinational companies. They have immense experience. They have implemented a lot of systems and processes transforming their finance functions. So I take this opportunity to get some thoughts. So to start with, I just want to understand from each one of you, how's your experience has been, what has been your journey in digital innovation, especially in finance function. So why did actually you start in first phase? What was the trigger point? How did you plan it? And what are the key areas you focused on initially, and how did you go about it? So.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. My name is Hari. I head the finance for Shell. When Prasad spoke about way back in 2004 CA, I go even way backer. Yeah? So we had something called FEDP. I don't know how old people are in this group. Yeah? It's called Financial Enterprise and Data Processing, yeah? Which is even more vaguer than what he said, yeah? when I passed out. But somehow we managed to get through all those things. Yeah? And I remember when good old days, I joined this company called Coca-Cola. Coke was coming into India at that point of time, somewhere in 2000. Yeah, they took over those bottlers all over the country. Yeah, so I worked in Tamil Nadu, 𝗧𝗵𝗿 bottling company. It was a manual ledger. Yeah, I had to write debit in page 1, turn to page 5, and put a credit. Yeah, and then we had to pass manual journal entry vouchers. Yeah. I mean, that's the way you learn. Yeah, at that point of time, you dirty your hands, and that was the technology. The first technological change at that time, digitalization was never used. We implemented Tally. Yeah, so Tally was such a big thing then. Yeah, converting from a manual set of ledgers to a Tally. From there, we are talking about digitalization, SAP and Oracles and black lines and everything. Everything is digitalized today. We've all been fortunate enough, yeah, to go through this journey. Yeah, the people who've cleared out recently, you're straight away jumping into a well-established technological and digitalized world. Yeah, while people like us, we had to go through from manual journal voucher to this digitalization journey. It was a fascinating journey. Yeah, so I'm also not a big technological guy. But then I realized that it's very important, so I took some time out of finance. I moved and worked in the IT space for 4 years in Shell as well, just to understand what happens on the other side. Very fascinating, but any day finance is better, so I came back. Yeah, so that's been my journey, but we'll talk about it more as well, yeah, as we go along.
Hello everyone, my name is Brinda. I head the finance for 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏. We are a manufacturing entity. The technology space has been ever evolving, and in each stint of wherever you have been working, it's been different. The requirements are different, the technology is different, and it has been such a learning experience. As he mentioned, from Tally, my sudden jump was to SAP. So it was like, what are we doing? How is this going to happen? How are we going to bring in people or train people? So everything was so evolving and ever challenging. We just had to adapt, and it was a journey that we could all go back and say that, okay, we did this, so in future also we can adapt to the new challenges like ChatGPT throws in, and we will adapt and make good use of it. That's all I can say.
Hello everyone, this is Sandeep. I head the finance for 𝗧𝗵𝗿𝗀𝗍𝗍. I think as everybody mentioned, and we all must have gone through this journey in our careers, right? I personally have been part of multiple startups, and all startups, we all know, are like very, very agile, very nimble, and they want to achieve things much faster than the normal pace, right? And hence technology becomes one of the catalyst there, acting them to grow as fast as they can, right? I have seen in my journey a number of transformations that has happened in finance and across the departments. And I mean, there are many examples. Like, there was a very simple example which was way back, with one of the startup. When I joined and I saw, the founder is signing checks for, approving any payments and all. And today in the digital world when we are living, I mean, nobody, I think, does this. So we went through the journey of transforming it, converting it into online transactions and, automated systems, which are very well available in the market. So I think this is a continuous journey with, we don't even realize in small things that we do day in and day out. Digital transformation has been part of it. And I think we all understand the value now, and hence I think we are covering this topic here as well today.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is 𝗏𝗏𝗶𝗏𝗏. I'm CFO for NinjaCart. We are an agri-tech supply chain company trying to optimize efficiencies in the agri-supply chain. That's how we call ourselves. So I think, like most of the panelists here, I mean, I'm a 2001 CA pass out, and I've seen the Tallies and EXs and SAPs and Oracles of the world. And I think a couple of things stand out to me. I think one is more of a reflection for the finance function. See, when ChatGPT came out, I mean, most of you know the latest version came out around 3 to 4 months back. In one of our business reviews, our data science and intelligence team was already on to ChatGPT trying to rationalize codes, right? When the rest of the world was trying to learn what ChatGPT is. So I think from a finance standpoint, our ability to gauge and adapt to change has to become a bit more agile. Otherwise, there will be a digital divide. And I think the faster we recognize it, the better it is. That is number one. I think the other aspect in terms of embracing the entire digital sort of transformation is being able to basically take up is largely really boils down to where you see yourself as a finance leader. If you really want to perform the role of a value creator or a value protector in the company, which I think encapsulates, and I'll take the liberty of encapsulating this, which the keynote speaker had said. you really need to embrace digital transformation. Otherwise, you will keep performing your finance roles the way it has been done traditionally. And like what I said, I want to reiterate, otherwise there is going to be this digital divide between the finance and the rest of the organization. And I'll leave it there. And the third sort of thing is, being part of a few startups right now, and it has not changed. Wherever I go, it's the same issue. It's about manual processes. It's about finance team burning midnight oil. It's about control lapses. It's about finance attrition because of overworking. A lot of this, I think, really goes down to process efficiency and digitization. The faster we realize it, I think, and embrace change and digitization, finance function can go to the next levels. Thank you.
Hi, my name is 𝗚𝗏𝗻. I'm the CFO for Maverick Systems. Maverick is a BFS-focused IT services company. And my experience over the years has been in a lot of technology companies. So in a way, we do this for our customers, and of course, we need to do it for ourselves as well, right? So I think you can't go and preach saying that you need to digitize, you need to automate so much. How much is it you do to your own company? So I think that's something which we constantly realize when we talk to customers. But equally, I think as many of the panel members spoke about, I think all of us have gone through journeys of how we've seen the finance function evolve, the kind of technology and the systems which we've been using over the years. But I think, so enough has been spoken about it, so now I'll spend too much time. Although I think I would kind of relate to what Hari was saying. I think we've also done manual financial accounting and trying to do a trial balance reconciliation where you find a 1 paise or a 2 paise difference, and how do you find it out? So I think all of that has done that. But I think the point is, many of us, even without necessarily even thinking it as a digital transformation exercise or having planned it as something you would want to do, ended up doing a lot of it in the last 2-3 years when COVID hit us, right? Because when COVID hit us and you had to continue your business and provides the same level of service that you would have done otherwise in office, a lot of things got done, right? People started scanning invoices, scanning their expenses. So the finance team figured out how to process it and how to make that available, even though it would not have been supported by a great backend system, but you all started that in some form or shape. So it is not that the finance function can't do it. When you're pushed to it, you will end up doing it because there's no other option. So therefore, you will find some solutions which is efficient. And of course, I'm sure many of you would have figured out how to make it more efficient and more scalable in forms, because I'm sure there are enough solutions available today where you can do a 3-way match of your vendor invoices, and then you can go back and see the specific invoice, even if it relates to, let's say, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and see what happened and what did you do in a particular case. So I think there are opportunities which are there. And similarly, at least if I look at the kind of digital transformation exercises I've been involved in the last few years or even longer, where I've been involved in exercises, I think many times it's the question of what is your need and how do you want to solve it, right? For example, if you start with a simple solution saying, I want to do a month-end close or a quarter-end close, which is, let's say, within a week of the quarter ending, what would you need to do and how would you need to do it, right? So as you start looking at problems like that, then you will find solutions which will require many other systems to be touched. For example, if you're looking at a quarter-end close and you need to say, how will I do it, let's say 2 days or a week within the quarter ending, one of the most important things which most companies struggle with is their entire order to cash cycle. So how do you close revenue? How do you do your invoicing? And then thereafter, how do you close all other subsystems? So I've been, at least what I've seen over the years is if you are able to solve some of your key systems well, then a lot of your digitization journey is far more smoother. So from the point of saying that, okay, if I'm taking a week or 10 days to close my revenue and get a view of what the revenue for the previous month was, to, let's say, being in a position to say that I can do it on the last working day of the month is a process. And of course, what solutions and tools you will choose to do that is an option. I'm sure there are many startups here in the panel, and it may not even be a month-end process. For them, it could be a daily thing. So your systems will have to be configured to say, what are you doing on a daily basis or on a weekly basis for you to get a sense of how your business is progressing. So many of these digitization initiatives, to my mind, is a function of what business strategies you have, what are your business priorities, and therefore then you will identify which are the ones you want to focus on and how do you go about doing it. So that's my take.
Yeah, thank you. So definitely digitization is no more an option actually, and we definitely need to. So when I think of digitization, we enter into so many projects simply implementation of systems or aligning all the team members and everyone. So what are the challenges which you have come across? So Hari, let me ask you, what are the challenges you have come across, and how have you, what are the implementation issues you have faced, and how did you work on them?
Okay, quite a few challenges on both sides of the house. I wouldn't say the challenge is only on the IT front or challenge is only on the finance front. Yeah, I'll give you a couple of examples which I've seen in my life. Let's talk about our own house first, finance. Yeah, as I said, when I was in the IT, finance came back to me and said, "Hey, can we digitalize some process?" Yeah, incidentally, digitalization is the most abused word in corporate today. Yeah, second most abused. First one is innovation. Yeah, so every sentence has this digitalization and innovation. Yeah, so they wanted to digitalize the finance planning process, for example. Yeah, and first thing they come to me is that, oh, do you have correct tool for it? Yeah, can we do SAP Analytics? Can we do Oracle Financials? Yeah, step back. Yeah, so people assume digitalization is only technology. Which is very, very wrong. Yeah? And Raghava very beautifully put it across. Yeah? It starts basically with business process. Yeah? Have we streamlined our own business process for us to go to IT and say, hey, my process is very good today, can you digitalize it? Yeah? Number one. And data structure. Yeah? So when we explored in this particular example around the whole planning process, the existing process was full of some 17 Excel sheets stored somewhere in 20 different locations, people bringing it together, doing macros, massaging the data. It's not going to be easy digitalizing that. Yeah? It could still be possible, but it's going to cost a bomb. Yeah? So the first process of digitalization that all of us have to understand is, as Raghava rightly put it, it's the business process and the data. Yeah? We need to keep that clean from our own end before we go back to any IT resource and say, can you help me automate or digitalize this process? That's a challenge I face from a finance side. Yeah. Now we go back to our IT colleagues. Yeah. The biggest challenge I have, they don't understand finance. Yeah. While you digitalize a supply chain process or you digitalize a customer operations process, it's easier to understand the business. Yeah. So an IT person sitting on the other side understands what the business process is. Yeah. But when he or she comes and sits with us in finance, yeah, and we start talking about profit centers and cost centers and general ledgers, I draw a blank face from that side. Yeah, it takes a lot of time training them to understand basic financial concepts. Yeah, and fantastic, we train them for 4 months. They are hot commodity. Yeah, they move on. They find another job and move away. There's a fresh set of people who comes with a blank face and say, what is profit center? Yeah, start the chain all over again. Yeah, so that's a challenge from an IT side, at least from my personal perspective. Yeah, for me, there are challenges on both finance side and the IT side. And the right way to bridge will come to some of the questions as well, how we tackle those challenges as well. But those has been a couple of challenges in my experience that I've seen.
Yes, indeed, yes. So Sandeep, you have worked with so many startups. So how has your experience been different, or what are you face the challenges?
Yeah, so I think in, first of all, in startups, there is a very different mindset that people carry. And when you talk about any change, so as we spoke, right, change is difficult to accept. So it's across the organizations, I think. But the good part with the startups are they are ready to take up the challenges. They are ready to accept and innovate as well. So at times change management is, and convincing the management is at times not that difficult, because those are young set of people. They understand what digitalization is, how it can benefit them. So it's a blessing, I think, for startups to have this. However, putting something in place, because startups are really unstructured. Now putting something new or a digital thing is always a challenge. Now every data is in a different form and shape. So you have to clean the data, put it in a right form and shape to bring it into a systematic way or a usable format. Is that something a challenge, I would say. Then convincing people. When I talk about, say, finance guys only, the junior finance guys who are upcoming and doing day-to-day job, they are very much afraid, saying that if something automated comes in, what about my job? Am I going to lose my role? But it's important to make them understand that this is going to improve their role. This is going to give them next level in their career. So those are some change in the thinking process which have to be imbibed. There is obviously a risk of compliance and regulation also associated with any change that we bring in. So we have to assess that very carefully. Putting all these in shape and getting the user acceptance and making them use these systems day in and day out is also something I think is a challenge in every organization, because every function works in a very different way. And if you add another task to them, they feel like, what is the benefit we are going to get out of it? Why we should do this? If this is only for finance, if this is only for a particular set of people, then it's very important to convince people that it is for the betterment of the entire organization and not just the one set of people or function as such. So I think a lot of these aspects are very, very crucial to manage in a tactful way. However, if you try to justify the ROI, the ROI is not only in terms of the financial context, but a lot of benefits that you get out of it and what you can build on top of it is something very, very different. So one has to justify, and our role as CFOs are to make them understand that this change is for the betterment of the entire company as a whole, and each one of them to accept these changes.
Indeed, yes, definitely. There are several challenges, and especially one of the major challenge, rightly said, is people management. So 𝗏𝗏, just thought of checking from change management perspective, what has been your experience facing these people? What was the resistance? How did you kind of try overcoming it and train your team?
Yeah, I'll pick up from the two keywords that you mentioned in your question itself, change and resistance. Change is the constant, but resistance is due to fear of change, right? So people start resisting change just because of the fear of the unknown. If they don't know what's going to happen. Just a small example, you get up in the morning, you have to send your kids to school. If I see that my kitchen is not organized the way I have or I did yesterday, and there's a change there, the morning is like off. I don't get the small dabba for my kids, my morning is off, right? So imagine the change, that the evolution that you are trying to bring through digitization to any finance resource. So the way I have been managing it is involving everybody from the start. So make them involved during the planning phase itself, so that they know what they are going to get out of it. So I think every function is transactional at the start, and once they start thinking about what changes they can bring in is kind of transitional, and once they actually get into it is transformational. So involving them, making them understand what they'll get out of it, conversing with them, training the resource in a proper manner, probably is the way for good change management.
Yeah, thanks, 𝗏𝗏. So Vivek, coming to, you have extensive experience in financial services sector. So how easy it was for you to kind of adopt the change management for your team, and how did you go about it?
So I think I'll pick up from where 𝗏𝗏 left. There are quite a few things from a change management standpoint which everybody needs to be aware of. So one is getting the right level of sponsorship, right? Any transformation needs investment. So as a leader, your ability to articulate why you need the change and the impact of the change to the organization is very critical, and that needs to happen at the highest level. That is one. The second thing in terms of change management, like what she reiterated, what she says is about clarity, right? You need to be able to articulate your team in terms of why you're making this change and how it will benefit them. I think most of them get it, right? If let's say there is a level of security provided, and then it means they actually go up the value chain because of the transformation, that makes it much more easier, right? The third is basically getting the change articulated within the organization, right? You need interfunctional support for this, right? So the important thing is to have that conversation with your CTO, your chief data officer, or the product team, articulating what the change is, what will be their interface and what is the support that is required, because that is very important. Because suddenly if a change comes in where you have not articulated this before, then people resist this change because it is not in their prioritization, in the list of prioritization they have, because they have other organizational priorities to take care of. And the last one is about execution, right? There are various models to this, right? One, you need to understand that this change or this transformation needs to have deep involvement of your own team. So basically, you're asking your team to not only manage the current activities, but also stretch to basically, embrace change, right? Which is very difficult because each of us have, for instance, I started a digital transformation initiative, now I parked it for a month because audit is happening. It's not going to happen. You need to be empathetic towards when to time the change is more important, right? Otherwise, it will not get basically buy-in from the team. So 2 or 3 ways of managing this, in my own view, is to create project management bandwidth. It can either happen from your own team, where you basically identify somebody with that kind of skill set to be able to manage or implement this change across the finance function, or you take outside support, right? Wherein somebody comes in, and I found both models being useful, because if you're expecting your own team to manage a change, is going to be very difficult. What they will bring to the table is actually the subject matter expertise in terms of how the process is running today and what the process should be, right? So to be able to create that project management bandwidth from an execution standpoint becomes very, very critical in my view. And how you do it is up to you, depending on your budget, depending on your team. I've used a combination of both.
I agree, definitely. So project management is a key, and nurturing the team, building that culture of the innovation, adoption to the technology is very important. But when I think of, from the finance perspective, especially whenever we go for such innovation, digital transformation projects, so how to kind of do the cost-benefit analysis, what would be the ROI, what would be the success factors in this implementation, that becomes kind of some of the questions relating to finance, which we also need to kind of find the answer. So just sort of understanding, Venkat, you have been kind of working with so many technology companies. So what has been kind of your experience in kind of how to justify the ROI, what you consider is a successful outcome of the projects?
Yeah, I think it's always a finance question, right? I think the first time somebody says, okay, I need to buy a certain tool, or we need to buy an application for a business benefit, what's the ROI I'm going to get? I think there are 2 parts to it, the way I see it, and particularly it's very easy to look at it purely financially, saying that, okay, I'm investing $1 million or let's say 100K in a solution, and what kind of returns I'm going to get. But equally, I think many times what happens is there is a lot of enthusiasm to adopt or take on a new solution or tool which is available in the market. But equally, I think we also need to see that what kind of business and organization discipline we have to use some things like this. Because many times there are a lot of tools which we pick up and they get rolled out and implemented, but the business is not adopting it. For example, I'll tell you a simple thing which most of us would deal with is a CRM solution. I think if many of you work with businesses which requires a lot of customer touch points, and you need a CRM solution because you don't know how are you interacting, what are you chasing, what is the status of the opportunity. So CRM solutions can be implemented, and there are enough solutions available in the market. There are very, very fancy ones available. You can quickly buy them and reasonably implement it as well. But if your business is not disciplined to using CRMs, and they're happy using Excel sheets and then telling you how many opportunities they're chasing, you're not going to get any business benefit out of it, because your business teams have not absorbed or agreed to the fact that they're going to change the way they're working and put in every single opportunity in their CRM system. So much as you would want to measure financially ROI of any new tools you're using, it's also your own business commitment to what you are looking to use and how you're going to use. Okay, there could be many very many tools which are analytical tools which you're using, which are largely used by finance function, where you're going to use it to provide insights, then it's easier to measure outcomes. Because for example, let's say you're looking at a order to cash solution to be implemented, then you can clearly say, okay, I'm going to send out my invoices 2 days after the month end is over, or the period end is over, or I'll do a finance close which is 5 days later, and you can put a number to it and arrive at a ROI. But there are many other so investments we make as a business which are used by different teams, but unless you also look at what is changing and how is it going to change and how are people going to adopt those newer tools, you will not get a full picture of what kind of ROIs you're making. So I think it's equally important to be wary of both.
So Brinda, what are your thoughts in terms of what is the success measures in these scenarios?
I think it all lies in the planning stage itself. If you are buying any technology or if you are implementing anything, the baseline is why, right? The question why kind of answers what ROI you are going to get out of it. So the structured implementation, stage by stage, and also making people understand how they have to use it and what they're going to get out of it is in turn the ROI for the organization.
Yeah, that's a good thought, definitely. And so when we talk about so many tools, especially the analytics is kind of helping a lot of businesses actually taking the right decision. So Vivek, just sort of understanding, okay, what has been your experience in various analytical tools and how it has helped in decision-making process, making the decision-making process better?
So I think in a lot of cases, before we get into analytical tools, right? Which I think the gentleman covered before, is about getting your data right. What goes in, comes out, right? So it is first articulating the data strategy, right? In terms of getting your data structure right, data architecture right, and then even there, there's plenty of choices in terms of both the analytical, the databases available and the tools available. You need to basically have the conviction and clarity in terms of what fits your organization, really, right? So, for instance, if you go for any analytical databases, there are very simple SQL databases to the more complex ones of the world. So, really, in terms of what is the right fit for your company, what is the right fit for a company of your maturity is very important. The second thing, I think, in terms of choice of tools, right? Before we even go external, the way that I always operate is basically look at what we have in the organization, right? Because there are, so for instance, I always walk up to my business intelligence team and because they are, or the data science team who are experts in this and see how are you actually, because they do more data crunching than you do, right? So they will clearly guide you in terms of, look, I already have this tool. I have a Power BI license, right? Already have this tool. You don't need to invest anything further. So what I have done in my organization is basically we've got Power BI licenses. We got people with the right level of skill sets to be able to understand, leverage Power BI, with the help from the data science team, and then being able to implement change. So most of the times I look at what's available in the organization before going for external tools. And just one point I wanted to add on the ROI, right? It's a very difficult one to articulate, especially for a finance function, which is typically a support function, where you're typically viewed as somebody who sits in a corner, passes invoices, and most of the time you say no to most of the things. That's how you're perceived, right?